Mitch McConnell. Now, I've resist the fact of making fun of him and all that kind of stuff because that's not me, and I'll explain why in a few moments. But I think it's time for him to retire, mainly because of health reasons. I don't want to turn on the news one day and find out that Mitch McConnell died at the podium. No, I do not want that to happen. I have nothing but the greatest disrespect for the man. The man is a terrible, but that's because he's a terrible senator. And you're listening to a person who lived in Kentucky a good portion of his life while he was senator. He has done absolutely nothing for the people of Kentucky, yet they still vote for him. He's done nothing to help the people who are living in the poorest counties in this country, the absolute poorest. Remember, I was brought up in Kentucky. I know exactly what I'm talking about. But I'm not going to lowball the man saying, yes, he is too old. But I'm not going to lowball him by making fun of his episode. He suffered another one. They just froze on stage. He looked like he was going to have a serious problem. I'm not going to lowball him by posting memes about him or making fun of his quote unquote diminished capacity. I'm not going to do that. I can't do that because that thing will lower me. And more to the point, all right, real talk. When people talk about people with mental problems, I get angry. Because those names you want to call them, I'm not going to talk those defamatory names. I'm not going to use them because of the sake of YouTube. I'm not going to do that. But I've been called those names. When I was younger, I was diagnosed with ADHD. I was put on pills, Ritalin, Risperidol, Adderall. It screwed me up. Back then, I was a kid. It screwed me up so badly that after my dose, you could hold a 12-ounce steak right to my nose and I wouldn't even take a bite. It screwed my appetite. It screwed those medicines screwed my head. And in fact, and frankly, it screwed with how I make friends now. I'm not sure about being around people. I don't have many friends. I'm not depressed, mind you. Please don't think that, because depression leads to some very dark places. I didn't say I was depressed, but now I'm getting through it. The reason why I don't make fun of Mitch McConnell because of his quote-unquote diminished capacity is because I understand possibly if he does have mental problems, especially after his fall, in which we heard that he has a concussion, that something must be done about it. You know, maybe he needs to go to a doctor. Maybe he needs to get some help. I hope he does get that kind of help. But as a senator, as a United States senator, he is nothing more than a 100% failure. And again, I was brought up in Kentucky, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. Some of the poorest counties in the United States of America are in the state of Kentucky. You cross the border into Tennessee, Ohio, any of the neighboring states, in Indiana, any of the neighboring states right on the Kentucky border, you'll see the exact difference. And I'm just talking about roadways. I'm not talking about conditions. The man has done absolutely nothing to help the state of Kentucky. And I know that for a fact. As I said, I was brought up in Kentucky. I know exactly what I'm talking about. But I'm not going to lowball the man because he may be too old to serve office. Dianne Feinstein's too old for office. And frankly, she needs to retire. Joe Biden may be too old, but at least he knows how to do the job. Until I see extreme evidence of diminished capacity to the point where I think this guy is going to have a heart attack right at the podium, I'm not going to say that he's going to have to leave office because of it. I'm not going to lowball the man that way. And besides, despite some very huge hiccups, I still support him as president. Don't even get me started on Donald Trump. The man is a nightmare. Just this weekend, meaning Labor Day weekend, he posts about how if we were better 4 years ago than we are now. If you're just thinking about gas prices and grocery prices, I'll be the first to admit, yes, we were, if that's all you're thinking about. My view of this country is a lot bigger and a lot wider than what's going on at the gas pumps and what's going on at the Kroger or the Walmart. I judge people, my leaders, by what they do and how they do the things they're supposed to do. If they screw up, they screw up. But what makes a leader instead of a clown is their capacity to admit they screwed up. Donald Trump is incapable of admitting that he screwed up. Joe Biden is. Mitch McConnell isn't. Dianne Feinstein, I don't know. I haven't really been paying attention to her. I don't know. I don't lowball people for being too old. And although sometimes I'm thinking that Mitch McConnell just loves to be called Senator McConnell, that he doesn't know how to move on. If that's the case, then he really needs to get some help. Because it's about holding on to power at that point. But for those 2 episodes, they froze on stage. They looked like he was going to have a cardiac episode. I am not going to lowball the man. I'm not going to lowball him by someone saying he has diminished mental capacity. Because I know exactly how that feels like when someone calls me those names. I'm not going to do that. But I have no respect for the man because he's a terrible, terrible American senator who's done nothing for his state and nothing for his country but stand up for the grand old party, the GOP. McConnell, I don't like you. In fact, I despise you, but I'm not going to lowball you and tell you that you're brain damaged or whatever else may be wrong with you, unless I see some proof of that. Now, honestly, maybe it is time for you to retire. Because quite frankly, the last thing I want to see if I turn on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News is former Senator Mitch McConnell passed out and died hours later in a hospital after he passed out in front of a podium giving a speech or answering questions of the press. I don't want to see that. It's bad enough that we had the 4 years of hell of Donald Trump, which he wants to make a lifelong prospect. But more on that on another video possibly. But honestly, Mitch, it's time for you to walk away. What else could you possibly do? And more to the point, what have you done to help this country now? You've done nothing but play the party line of the GOP, be a good soldier for the GOP. You've done nothing. Maybe it's your conscience coming to getting to you. But honestly, it's time for you to move on. Not because you're too old, because you are. Not because you might have some physical problems with you, because you probably do. I'm telling you to move on because quite frankly, you were and you still are a terrible, terrible senator. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.